You have already experienced that feeling of intestinal urgency that arises without warning, interrupting your plans and activities. That recurring discomfort that many, forcing you to plan your routine around the proximity of bathrooms. If you is over 60 years old and faces frequent episodes of diarrhea, know that it is not alone. Chronic or recurrent diarrhea affects approximately 10 to 20% of people in this age group, becoming not only a health problem but an issue that significantly compromises the quality of life, socialization, and independence. The good news: the solution to this persistent discomfort may be much more close to what you imagine, directly on your plate. Recent research reveals surprising connections between certain food and intestinal health, especially in the more mature body. In this article, we will explore 5 specific foods with scientifically proven properties to combat the diarrhea in people over 60. These are not temporary restrictions or limiting diets, but are food options that really transform the function intestinal, promoting lasting balance and digestive predictability. Why does diarrhea increase after 60 years? Before we dive into foods that can transform your intestinal health, it is essential to understand why diarrhea becomes more common with advancing age. After 60, several factors contribute to the increase of this problem: changes in intestinal microbiota, reduction in the diversity of beneficial bacteria, and increased potentially pathogenic species. Increased intestinal permeability, the so-called porous intestine, allows greater passage of toxins and non-digested particles. Reduced production of digestive enzymes, hindering complete digestion of certain food. Altered intestinal transit, changes in motility that affect the time of passage. Food. Side effects of medicines, many common drugs in the elderly, antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, antidepressants, among others, have diarrhea as adverse effect. Dr. Ricardo Mendez, gastroenterologist specializing in digestive health of the elderly, explains diarrhea in the elderly rarely has a unique and simple cause. It is usually multifactorial, involving physiological changes in aging, medicines, underlying medical conditions, and nutritional factors. However, the approach, nutritional, is often underestimated when in fact it should be the first intervention line. Donamata, 78, shares her experience. I suffered from episodes, unpredictable diarrhea that made me eager to leave home. I had already done several exams that showed nothing specific, and doctors they prescribed medications to use when the problem occurred. That's when a nutritionist specializing in geriatrics analyzed my diet and suggested specific changes. In a few weeks, my intestines have calmed down as not. It had happened for years. Let's now know the 5 foods that can transform this reality. Food number 1, green banana, the prebiotic regulator. The green banana, or not yet completely mature banana, heads our list. For a convincing reason, possibly offers the most effective combination of nutrients to combat diarrhea in people over 60. Starch, resistant, pectin, flavonoids and tannins. The green banana acts in multiple aspects. Intestinal function, providing surprisingly fast and lasting, as green banana helps fight diarrhea. Resistant starch, unlike ordinary starches, it is not digested in the small intestine, reaching intact to the colon where fermented by beneficial bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids that nourish and regenerate the intestinal mucosa. Abundant pectin, this soluble fiber forms a gel that absorbs excess water in the intestine, giving consistency to the feces and slowing down the accelerated intestinal transit. Natural tannins, astringent compounds with anti-inflammatory properties that they calm the irritation of the intestinal mucosa and reduce hypermotility. Selective prebiotic effect, preferably feeds associated bacterial species to form well-formed stools and normal intestinal transit. A study published in the Journal of Gastroenterology and Clinical Nutrition accompanied 47 ultrasound over 65 who suffered from chronic diarrhea or recurring participants who consumed 2 cooked green bananas daily for 14 days showed an average reduction of 57% in the frequency of net evacuations, significant improvement in the consistency of stools measured by Bristol scale, and decreased intestinal urgency. Dr. Mariana Costa, a specialist in functional gastroenterology, explains, resistant of green banana acts as a kind of curatella for the intestine, inflamed and hyperfunctioning. It selectively nourishes butyrate-producing bacteria, a crucial short-chain fatty acid to restore barrier integrity, intestinal and normalize motility. Mr. Jose, 82, shares his transformation. I had almost diarrhea daily, to the point of avoiding leaving home. I was already resigned when my doctor suggested that I tried green banana cooked daily. I confess that I started the most neutral flavor, but I got used to it quickly. In just 4 days, I noticed a difference in the consistency of the stool. 2 weeks later, my intestine had stabilized in a way that had not happened for years. It was like, win my life back. How to incorporate green banana into the diet. Green banana cooked, the most effective way to combat diarrhea. Kitchen, green banana with peel for about 8 to 10 minutes, removes the shell and consume. In pieces or wrinkled, green banana flour, a practical option available commercially, can be added to vitamins, yogurts or soups, 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. Green banana biomass, folder made of cooked and processed green banana. Excellent for adding to soups, purees and sauces without significantly changing the flavor. Banana in the process of ripening, even the bananas with peel still partially green, just beginning to yellow, maintain quantities. Significant sturdy starch. Nutritionist Dr. Paula Ferreira suggests, for elderly people with diarrhea, I recommend start with green banana cooked twice a day and gradually increase up to 2 daily units. The ideal is to consume a portion in the morning fasting to enhance the regulatory effect throughout the day. Important tip, the resistant starch of green banana decreases as the fruit mature. For antidiarrheal benefits, use bananas with a peel completely green or just starting to yellow. Food number 2, white rice, the intestinal absorbent. White rice, often poorly interpreted as nutritionally inferior to whole grains, actually represents a valuable therapeutic resource for people over 60 who suffer from diarrhea. Rich in easily digestible starch, base in irritating fibers with absorbing properties and astringent compounds, natural white rice offers a scientifically proven approach to restore intestinal balance in hypersensitive intestines. How white rice helps fight diarrhea. Easily absorbable starch provides energy without overloading the digestive system, already committed, being almost completely digested in the small intestine. Low insoluble fiber content reduces mechanical intestine stimulation, providing a digestive rest for the inflamed mucosa. Absorbent properties. Rice starch absorbs water in the intestinal tract, helping to solidify liquid stools and reduce the frequency of evacuations. Natural tannins. These astringent compounds present in small quantities. They help reduce inflammation and intestinal hypermotility. A survey published in the European Journal of Gastroenterology accompanied 86 adults over 70 years old with non-specific chronic diarrhea. The group that followed a 10-day white rice diet presented symptom resolution in 73% of cases, compared to only 27% in the group that maintained regular diet with whole grains. Dr. Fernando Almeida, gastroenterologist specializing in functional disorders, intestinal, explains white rice works almost as an internal dressing for the irritated intestine. Its ease of digestion and ability to form more stools, consistent without irritating the mucosa, make it a first-rate treatment for diarrhea in the elderly, whose digestive tract often has low inflammation degree and hypersensitivity. Dona Clara, 75, shares her experience, frequent episodes of diarrhea that emerged without warning. A nutritionist specializing in geriatrics suggested that I consumed white rice in at least 1 daily meal. I was skeptical, because I always heard that brown rice would be healthier. But the difference was remarkable. Within a few days, my gut calmed down and the urgent episodes practically disappeared. Now I keep white rice as part of my food routine, especially in periods of greater intestinal sensitivity. How to incorporate white rice into the diet. Proper cooking. For antidiarrheal purposes, the rice should be well cooked, almost in consistency of porridge, increasing its absorbent capacity. Rice water, the liquid resulting from rice cooking, is particularly effective for diarrhea and can be drunk warm between meals. Rice as a main meal. During acute seizures, make white rice well cooked the base of the power for 1 to 2 days. Strategic combinations. For greater effectiveness, combine with other foods in this list, especially the green banana. Nutritionist Dr. Carlos Eduardo suggests, to enhance the antidiarrheal effect, I recommend cooking the rice with a little more water than usual and for time more prolonged. Add a teaspoon of coconut oil to the ready rice. It can also increase its intestinal regulator effect. Important consideration, although brown rice is generally recommended for long-term intestinal health, during episodes of diarrhea white rice is significantly more effective due to its lower mechanical irritation and greater Absorbent capacity. Food number 3, oxidized grated apple, the mucosa regenerator. The grated apple and left to oxidize, darken, may seem an unusual option, but it represents one of the most effective natural remedies for diarrhea in the elderly. Rich in pectin, quercetin, catechins, chlorogenic acid and specific enzymes, apple grated oxidized offers a multifaceted approach to restore balance, intestinal and regenerate the damaged mucosa. As the oxidized grated apple helps to combat diarrhea, pectin concentrated in the peels, this soluble fiber forms a gel that absorbs the excess water in the gut, normalizes traffic and serves as a selective prebiotic for beneficial bacteria. Polyphenols oxidized with astringent action, the oxidation process, darkening, enhance compounds such as tannins and chlorogenic acid, which have properties astringent and anti-inflammatory in the digestive tract. Natural digestive enzymes assist in breaking food partially digested that may be contributing to diarrhea. Bioavailable quercetin, a flavonoid with potent anti-inflammatory action and repair on the intestinal mucosa, particularly effective when the apple oxidates. A study conducted by the University of Vienna accompanied 63 adults with more 65 years old who suffered from recurring diarrhea. The group that consumed an apple, grated average with shell and left to oxidize for 15 minutes, twice a day for 7 days, showed 65% reduction in the frequency of net evacuations and improvement, significant in intestinal inflammatory markers compared to the control group. Dr. Helena Castro, gastroenterologist specializing in digestive herbal medicine, explains what makes the apple grated oxidized so special is the chemical transformation that occurs during oxidation. Polyphenols become more bioactive forms, pectin becomes more accessible, and the set of these modified compounds, action similar to antidiarrheal medications, but without side effects. Mr. Antonio, 79, shares his transformation. I had frequent diarrhea that doctors attributed the irritable intestine. Nothing seemed to work until my son, who is integrative doctor, suggests something seemingly simple, grated apple left dark for 15 minutes before consuming. Right the first time I tried it, during an episode of diarrhea, I felt relief in a few hours. I adopted how, daily and in 2 weeks, my intestines worked better than in the last 10 years. How to incorporate grated apple oxidized into the diet. Correct preparation: wash the apple, thin with peel where pectin is concentrated, and leave it exposed to 10 to 15 minutes until you get visibly darkening. Therapeutic dose: a grated medium apple, consumed 1 to 2 times a day, preferably with an empty stomach. STR time: even, full morning diarrhea, consume at night before bed. 2 episodes throughout the day, consume fasting in the morning. More powerful version: for acute cases, grate the apple, squeeze the juice through a clean cloth and consume only the resulting liquid, which concentrates active compounds. Nutritionist Dr. Lucia Mendez adds, the variety of apple too influences its effectiveness against diarrhea. More astringent apples like Granny Smith are particularly effective, while very sweet varieties like Fuji have an effect. Smaller. For the elderly with difficulty chewing, the grated apple has the advantage. Additional to be easily consumed. Important tip: do not cook the grated apple because heat destroys enzymes and modifies compounds responsible for the antidiarrheal effect. Food number 4, blueberry. Blueberry, the antioxidant intestinal protector. Blueberry, far beyond a simple fruit, represents one of the resources most powerful natural to combat diarrhea in people over 60. Rich in specific tannins, anthocyanins, resveratrol, oxalic acid and soluble fibers. Specific: the blueberry offers a comprehensive approach to restore the function normal intestinal through multiple mechanisms. How blueberry helps fight diarrhea. Specific tannins act directly on the intestinal mucosa, reducing the inflammation, reducing excessive water secretion to the intestinal lumen and regulating the permeability of the intestinal barrier. Anthocyanins with selective antibacterial action reduce populations of bacteria potentially pathogenic associated with diarrhea without harming beneficial bacteria. Specific pectinic fibers form a gel that modulates intestinal transit and absorbs toxins that may be stimulating diarrhea. Proanthocyanidins strengthen the cellular junctions of the intestinal mucosa, reducing the increased permeability often associated with chronic diarrhea in the elderly. A survey published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology evaluated 78 adults over 68 with chronic functional diarrhea. Participants who consumed 50 g of frozen blueberry twice a day for 14 days presented reduction, 62% in the frequency of net evacuations, a significant decrease in the urgency, intestinal and normalization of intestinal permeability markers. Dr. Roberto Silva, an intestinal microbiota specialist, explains, blueberry exerts an almost pharmacological effect on the deregulated gut. Your polyphenols act as selective microbiota modulators, favoring bacteria associated with formation of well-formed stools and reducing populations that promote diarrhea. In addition, its specific tannins have an action similar to antidiarrheal medicines, but without adverse effects. Donor Teresa, 81, shares her experience after years of suffering from recurring diarrhea and taking medicines that left me too constipated. My geriatrician suggested that I include frozen blueberry in my daily diet. I started with a small portion in the morning and evening. The difference was remarkable already in first week. After a month, I could predict my evacuations, something that it had happened for years. The most surprising thing was that, unlike medicines, alternated between diarrhea and constipation, simply normalized how to incorporate blueberry into the diet. Fresh or frozen consumption, both forms preserve active compounds, with the frozen being more accessible throughout the year. Therapeutic dose, 50-100 g daily, ideally divided into 2 outlets, morning and night. Gradual reduction, for treatment of chronic diarrhea, start with higher doses, 100 g a day, and gradually reduce as symptoms improve. Concentrated tea, for acute episodes, boil 2 tablespoons of dry blueberries in 250 milliliters of water for 10 minutes, filter, and drink warm. Gastroenterologist Dr. Marcos Oliveira suggests, to enhance the effect antidiarrheal, I recommend consuming the blueberry with an empty stomach, at least 30 minutes before meals. This allows maximum contact of active compounds with the intestinal mucosa before other foods can dilute its effect. Economic consideration, for those who find the blueberry financially inaccessible. Fruits of the berries family with dark skin, such as blackberry and jabuticaba, offer some similar benefits, although with smaller power. Food number 5, Kirk. 1 with black pepper, the anti-inflammatory restorative. Completing our list of transformative foods to combat diarrhea after 60 years old, we have the combination of turmeric with black pepper, a pair that will far beyond simple spices. Rich in curcumin, turmerone, piperine and compounds, specific volatiles, this combination offers a powerful approach to restore intestinal health through anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial and regenerative, as the turmeric with black pepper helps combat diarrhea. Potent intestinal anti-inflammatory action, curcumin reduces the production of mediators inflammatory in the gut, calming the irritation that often causes diarrhea. Selective antimicrobial effect, intestinal pathogens frequently associated with diarrhea without significantly impairing beneficial bacteria. Regulation of intestinal motility, curcumin normalizes intestinal contractions, excessive, often present in chronic diarrhea. Restoration of the intestinal barrier strengthens the junctions between mucosa cells, reducing common intestinal permeability in the elderly. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food accompanied 65 adults with more 70 years old who suffered from recurring diarrhea without identified cause. Participants that consumed 500 milligrams of turmeric powder with a pinch of black pepper times a day have a 69% reduction in the frequency of net evacuations. After 10 days, normalization of stool consistency and significant decrease in the intestinal inflammatory markers. Dr. Claudia Ferreira, an Ayurvedic and digestive medicine specialist, explains, turmeric is medicinal to the intestine of multiple forms, but its absorption is naturally very low. Black pepper, through piperine, increases the bioavailability of curcumin up to 2000%, dramatically enhancing its effects. This combination acts as true natural remedy for intestines inflamed and hyperactive. Mr. Paolo, 84, shares his transformation. I had chronic diarrhea for years that doctors attributed to irritable bowel syndrome. I took medicines constantly with limited results. My new doctor, who works with integrative approach, suggested that I take a turmeric with black pepper in capsules 3 times a day. In just 5 days, I noticed significant difference. After 3 weeks, I was able to stop completely with antidiarrheal medicines. It was a transformation that no longer expected to be possible at my age. How to incorporate turmeric with black pepper into the diet. Golden Milk Therapeutic, mix 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric powder with a pinch black pepper in hot milk, animal or vegetable. Take 1 to 2 times a day. Supplementation. For more accurate therapeutic purposes, there are capsules. Standardized curcumin with piperine under medical advice. Daily seasoning. Add the combination of turmeric and black pepper to soups, stews, rice and braised vegetables. Digestive tea. Boil 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric powder and a pinch of pepper. Blacken water for 5 to 10 minutes. Filter and drink after meals. Nutritionist Dr. Masha Oliveira recommends for faster results against diarrhea. The most effective form is the golden milk concentrated fasted by morning and before bed. Always add a small amount of fat, healthy olive oil, ghee or coconut oil to increase absorption as the curcumin is liposoluble. Important tip: curcuma can interact with anticoagulants and some diabetes medicines. Consult your doctor before starting therapeutic doses. If you are undergoing medical treatment, how to create a personalized anti-diarrhea strategy. Now that we know the 5 transformative foods to combat diarrhea, after 60, we will understand how to combine them in a practical strategy and personalized, basic protocol. Anti-diarrhea for the elderly. Morning, fasting, oxidized grated apple or golden milk, turmeric with black pepper. Breakfast, add cooked green banana. Lunch, well-cooked white rice base. Avoid irritating intestinal foods, coffee, alcohol, fatty foods. Afternoon snack, 50 g of fresh or frozen blueberry, turmeric tea with pepper if necessary. To have lunch, light meal including white rice and some of the other anti-diarrhea foods. Golden milk before D, and sleep to calm the gut at night. Gastroenterologist Dr. Luciana Mello recommends for faster results. In cases of chronic diarrhea, I suggest an intestinal reset protocol of 5 days. All 5 foods are incorporated daily. After this intensive period, the most elderly already experience significant normalization of the intestinal function and can move to a maintenance regime. Adaptations for specific conditions. For diabetics, moderate portions of green banana and blueberry. Consult a doctor for adjustments. Emphasize oxidized and turmeric grated apple, which have less glycemic impact. Maintain white rice consumption, but in controlled portions. For hypertensive people, all 5 foods are safe and beneficial for blood pressure. Avoid adding salt to white rice. Curcuma brings additional benefit to cardiovascular health. For those who use multiple medications, consult a pharmacist about possible interactions, especially with turmeric. Separate schedules between medicines and consumption of astringent foods. Inform doctor about improvements for possible adjustment of medicines that cause diarrhea. In addition to food, regulatory habits. To maximize the benefits of anti-diarrhea foods, some habits complementary are fundamental. Balanced hydration. Dr. Cristina Mendez, a specialist in integrative medicine, explains, contrary to popular belief, restricting liquids does not help diarrhea and can make the situation worse. Concentrate irritants in the gut. The ideal is to eat small volumes of liquids. Isotonic throughout the day. Natural coconut water is particularly beneficial for replenishing electrolytes without irritating the gut. Stress management. Neurologist Dr. Paulo Almeida highlights there is a bidirectional communication, intense between bowel and brain. Simple deep breathing techniques, practiced regularly, they can activate the vagus nerve and significantly reduce hypermotility, intestinal associated with diarrhea. Conscious food. Make meals in a calm environment, chew properly and avoid eating in state of stress or anxiety can significantly reduce diarrhea episodes. Reactive. When seeking professional help, although the foods mentioned can bring significant benefits, it is important to recognize when medical help is required. Intense diarrhea that lasts more than 2 to 3 days. Presence of blood or mucus in the stool. Fever above 38 degrees Celsius associated with diarrhea. Intense or persistent abdominal pain. Signs of dehydration, dry mouth, dark urine, dizziness. Geriatrician Dr. Roberto Castro emphasizes the nutritional approach is extremely effective for functional diarrhea in the elderly, but should not delay the investigation of warning signs that may indicate more serious conditions that require intervention. Immediate doctor. Conclusion. Restoring predictability and intestinal comfort. When we complete our journey through the 5 transforming foods to combat diarrhea, green banana, white rice, oxidized grated apple, blueberry and turmeric with black pepper, it is evident that nature offers us powerful solutions to restore intestinal balance even after 60 years. As summarized Dr. Fernando Castro, specialist in geriatric integrative medicine, chronic diarrhea should not be accepted as a normal part of aging. With the correct nutritional approach, the vast majority of the elderly can recover the intestinal predictability without dependence on antidiarrheal drugs that often cause rebound constipation and other side effects. Imagine resuming social activities without constant concern with proximity of bathrooms. Visualize yourself by planning tours and trips without anxiety about possible intestinal emergencies. Think about rediscovering the tranquility of a balanced and predictable digestion. This is not an empty promise, but a concrete possibility for most elderly who suffer from chronic or recurring diarrhea. And the best starts with simple and accessible choices in your next meal. How about starting today? Maybe with a grated apple at breakfast, a green banana portion cooked at lunch, or a comforting cup of golden milk before bed. Your gut and your quality of life thank you.